All right, hello my friends. Today is a very good day, and you know why. Look at it. We have a 1972 Triumph Spitfire to talk all about, and you know I'm going to enjoy that. So let's go ahead and do it. With this channel, well, we're pretty chill. We talk about car history, we talk about cars, any car I can get my hands on in our family mechanic shop, which is where I am right now. I'll get my hands on it and I will make a video on it because car history is kind of my jam. So if that is your jam as well, then go ahead and press subscribe wherever that button might be. This is what I have to deal with while filming. A live audience. And of course, a big thank you to the owner of this lovely 1972 Triumph Spitfire, Robert Thomas, one of our customers here at Shook Enterprises. We always have the best customers. Thank you, Robert. I really do appreciate it. It's a beautiful car. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive a bit into the history of the Spitfire. Now, the Spitfire almost didn't happen, but hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get there in a second. Now, Triumph had already been producing the TR series, which I got a video of that right there. They had already been producing the Herald, but they saw an opportunity, all right? They saw a price gap that they could fit a car into, the Spitfire. So basically, at the time, Austin-Healey had just produced the Sprite, and they saw that the Sprite was doing well at that price point, and they said, let's get a car into that price point too. And to keep costs down, they went ahead and used the Triumph Herald's chassis and put a sleek new body on it, okay? And they called this project Project Bomb. Pretty cool name, pretty cool name. And what they did was they went ahead and put this project in the lap of Giovanni Michelotti, who is a very prolific designer. And really most credit Giovanni for moving Triumph into the modern design style, modern ages with the TR4. Now in Triumph he also did the GT6, the Herald, the Spitfire, and then aside from Triumphs he did countless Ferraris, Maseratis. He did the Maserati Quattroporte, which I did a video of that right up there, and a handful of Lancias or Lancias, however you like to pronounce it. But the guy was genuinely prolific, and I think we can agree he did a good job. So we're just gonna digress really quickly, okay? So Giovanni Michelotti also did this adorable design under his own name. It was the Michelotti Schelette or Michelotti Schelette. Either way, doesn't matter how I pronounce it, it's adorable. Look at that. Now this is the part where the Spitfire almost didn't happen, okay? So Triumph was sold to British Leyland, and during that whole process, the bomb project was completely forgotten for the most part. You know, shifting of management, all this stuff that happens when a company takes over another company. But it would all come back into works when a curious employee at British Leyland happened upon the bomb project, uncovered a dusty sheet, and voila! They brought the bomb project back up to executives and they said, let's run with it. Alright, so the bomb project is finally complete and it is launched as the Spitfire 4 at the 1962 London Motor Show. It is powered by a 1,147cc engine inline 4, which is where that 4 came from in the Spitfire. Now also where that Spitfire came from is a nod to the iconic single-seater British airplane that was used mostly in World War II. So the Spitfire hits the scene and people love it because everybody loves a British roadster. Myself obviously included. But it does have an aspect that causes quite a bit of controversy, frankly. And that one thing would be the single transverse leaf swing axle arrangement, okay? And it would cause the car to have kind of a shifty back end and tuck-in experience for the driver, and really created violent oversteer if you drove the car too hard, and nobody really liked that. It would get fixed later on, don't worry, I'll get to that in a second. Alright, let's jump 3 years later down the road when Triumph releases the Spitfire 4 Mark II. Alright, now it would have the same engine as the Mark I, the original debuting Spitfire, but it would be tuned and produce more power. Also, they'd be riding on a new suspension, and you would have a new grille and new badges. And then, just 2 short years after the Mark II was released, we would see the introduction of the Mark III. And you might be thinking, well, golly, it feels like a car's getting released every 2 years. Well, yeah, I mean, they were pretty much kept on their feet. It was competitive. It was a competitive sports car game back then. It was kind of exciting. They were against, like Austin-Healey, MG cars. Good times. And with the Mark III, that would be the first time you really saw any changes on the Spitfire. So the front bumper was raised to adhere to US safety regulations. Reverse lights were standard. I think they got also a fancier interior, 15-inch wire chrome wheels, and I think most importantly was the fact that they got a easier to maneuver soft top. Because the one that first came out, the Mark I and Mark II, apparently was a big pain to maneuver. And with the Mark III, you also got a larger engine, 1,296cc, 1.3 liter engine. And for the time, for its day, it was actually pretty sprightly. It could reach 60 miles per hour in 13.4 seconds. And now, just a side note, at this time, 75% of all Spitfires were being exported out of the UK. Alright, and in the US alone, we got 45% as a rule. And that was really pretty darn common. I think, 80% of Austin-Healey came over here too? The Austin-Healey 3000. I'm not sure on that number, that's off the top of my head, so obviously it's not trustworthy. But that was pretty common. We were crazy for British roadsters at that time. Starting in 1969, any US-bound Spitfires were kind of known as federal Spitfires, okay? So they were changed up to adhere to the US safety regulations of the time. In the final year of the Mark III's production, 1970, we would see a bit of a switch up with its badging. The separate Triumph letters on the front of the bonnet were taken off, and you would see Triumph and Spitfire rectangular badges used in the front, rear sides, and the rear of the car. A limited number of US market 1970s Spitfires were adorned with RAF-style Spitfire badging. Alright, and in 1970 we would see the introduction of the Mark IV, okay? And it would be completely reskinned by Giovanni Michelotti. He would also kind of simplify, make the chrome bumpers a little more dainty, aesthetically pleasing. He would flare the wheel arches, you can kind of see that a little bit there. Also recess the door handles, but really, most importantly, they would finally fix the problem that had been plaguing the prior models. They would fix the back end and the oversteer. At this point in time, with the release of the Mark IV, something kind of interesting happened to the dash of the Spitfire. Prior, it had always been located in the middle. Like, I'm talking about the instrument cluster. All the gauges had been located in the middle of the dash. Now, why that was, it made it a whole lot easier for this manufacturer out of UK to produce either right-hand or left-hand driving cars. Then with the Mark IV, the instrument cluster, the gauges, would be located right behind your steering wheel, which is a lot more convenient. Now, a negative thing that happened to the Mark IV was that the horsepower dropped. It went from 75 to 63 horsepower. And why that is, it was a combination of more weight on the car and them trying to adhere to US emissions regulations. You know, I've been talking too much. Let's just go ahead and take a nice little look around this 1972 Spitfire right behind me. We would see the release of the Spitfire 1500. That's right, no longer the Mark I, Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. It's now the Spitfire 1500. And now why that is we got a larger engine, woohoo, 1500 cc's. However, unfortunately, that larger engine did not translate into more power. Unfortunately, once again, US emissions regulations dropped the power from, and unfortunately some of the earlier models of the Spitfire 1500 and that bigger engine were known to be kind of prone for problems. And some of y'all already might be thinking 1974, yes, that is the year of big bumpers. Okay, the Spitfire got big bumpers. Halfway through that year, the MGB got big bumpers. It is the year for large black bumpers. You know, when you think about the Triumph Spitfire and it's close to 20 years of production and it's 5 beautiful models, each improving with time, you really think, well, that was a pretty successful British roadster. And I would agree. Now, what if BMW, who owns the Triumph name, decided, hey, let's go ahead and make another affordable roadster under the Triumph name? I think it could happen. Fingers crossed. All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this nice, brief, candid, and fun for me little trip through the Triumph Spitfire history. If this is your cup of tea, well, go ahead and press subscribe. We're pretty relaxed around here. You like car history? We do too. Let's be friends, right? Of course. So, until next time, cheers.